Hi, I'm Tane.
I'm Gus.
And we are Future Crunch.
And we're back to talk a little bit more about this concept of an adaptability quotient, AQ, the ability to pivot and flourish in an environment of fast and frequent change. Now, in our last session with you, we really introduced this concept, we explored it, and we gave you some examples of people using it in action. In this session, we're going to be unpacking it a little bit more, and we're going to be showing you how we think you can embed AQ on an individual and organizational level right now.
In a world that is changing faster than ever, AQ is the most important skill to thrive in the 21st century. It's AQ that gave Ukrainian rock band O Torvald the vision to rock out and keep their fans safe, and a hotel in Kiev the business savvy to take a disaster and turn it into a new income stream.
It's AQ that gives Navy sailor DeMontre Butler the skills to handle the lines at dawn, call navigational distance at dusk, and cook delicious garlic potatoes for dinner.
And it's AQ that was at the core of Lonza's decision to build modular factories, and that allowed Moderna to spin up the production line for millions of vaccines in record time.
It's AQ that's at the core of how the Broad Institute, one of the best research institutes in the world, now operates.
It's AQ that gave the salty sailors in New Zealand the gusto to embrace a new AI crew member, be defeated by it, improve their skills, and then beat it and win the world's oldest sporting trophy.
And it's AQ that helped Rhea Shah create cardboard beds for hospitals, combining her family's resources and her own ingenuity into a life-saving solution, even during the darkest of times.
And it's AQ that allows you to adjust when a coronavirus that no one had heard about just over a year ago derails all of your carefully laid plans.
It's what stops entire industries from being blindsided when plastic straws and bottled water go from staples to rejects overnight. And it's what allows businesses to change course when their office spaces are no longer the places where the work actually gets done.
When a problem arises, instead of complaining about how difficult it is, you start looking for solutions instead.
Now, just to be clear, AQ is different from resilience, which is the ability to bounce back from a challenge.
And it's broader than grit.
Yeah, that's right. AQ isn't about bounce back ability or sticking it out. Rather, it's an ability to bring that same level of energy and attention to any situation. This is what effective leadership now has to look like in every industry.
Don't take it from us, though. Here's a survey conducted by McKinsey in November last year from tens of thousands of employees across different industries, asking what leadership behaviors have become more important and more effective during the pandemic. Have a look at some of these: being supportive and caring,
being creative and entrepreneurial,
embracing rapid decision-making,
being comfortable with ambiguity. And what you can see here is that it's almost all EQ and AQ. The behaviors that have become less important are largely to do with the old model, which prioritized efficiency and productivity over everything else, showing operational excellence, promoting internal competition, leading from the front.
What's so interesting is that these are now the least effective behaviors.
So if that's the case, then why is adaptability still so rare in the workplace? Why is it that when it comes to work, we become so fixed in our ways?
Did you start off your career with your mind wide open and then slowly feel you become more specialized, less flexible, weighed down by the accumulation of stress, bureaucracy, and habit?
Well, the good news is that there's now actually an opportunity because everything's been busted wide open again. There are now new and better ways of doing things as we move into this new decade. So don't get stuck in the old ways of thinking.
Someone who understood this so well was our favorite business guru.
That's right. Yep, Douglas Adams, the author of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And he wrote this: everything that's already in the world when you're born is normal. Anything that's invented between when you're 15 and 35 is new and exciting and revolutionary, and you can probably get a career in it. And anything invented after you're 35 is terrible and dangerous and against the very natural order of things.
So we're in trouble. We're both over 35. We're definitely verging on grumpy old man territory.
Yeah, you know, I actually, this is true. I see the truth of it every day because I'm a new dad. And this is my daughter, Lola, who is now 17 months old. She's amazing. She's learning and changing so fast, exploring the world, seeing, touching, tasting, hearing. She's infinitely adaptable. Her brain is forming millions of new connections every day. And one of the most extraordinary things about seeing her in action is that I know that she would be adjusting to her environment just as easily whether she was growing up in Imperial Japan or the Australian outback 80,000 years ago. Watching her, I'm reminded again and again that adaptability is our birthright, that we are all born with it. As we grow older, though, we lose that curiosity. Our preferences become fixed. Our neural pathways settle. We stop listening to new music. We stop taking in new ideas. We become specialists in our areas. We form our view of the world, and then we fix it in time. The world, though, doesn't stay fixed. The world changes.
You know who doesn't act that way? My dad.
Oh yeah, your dad's awesome.
Yeah, if you think I'm a nerd, you should meet the old man. He was an interesting dad growing up because he was always curious, and still is. He started out as a physicist, then became a mathematician. I mean, pretty lame, right? Who's ever going to need math? So he's originally a Kiwi, but our family moved to rural New Mexico in the 1970s. Here he is plowing our pecan orchard at home. In the 1980s, he started a software business and saved up for a decent retirement. But during the global financial crisis in 2007, my folks had most of their savings stolen from them. What was supposed to be in a safe place, the bank. The rug was ripped out from under their feet. Sound familiar? It happens. When the world changes, we have a choice. We can give up, go home, or we can dust ourselves off and try something new. And that's what my dad did. At the ripe old age of 69, he took some free courses online in artificial intelligence.
I'm Tane's dad. I've just taken several machine learning AI courses, one from Stanford, two from Fast AI. I highly recommend them. The Fast AI courses take you right up to the absolute state of the art.
His new AI-based investment business has grown by a factor of 6 since COVID hit. Now he's even riding the crypto train. It turns out you can teach an old dog new tricks. Adaptability isn't about your age, it's about your attitude. It's an opportunity to embrace a lifelong learning process that delivers the chance to be a better version of ourselves.
So look, that all sounds very nice, but how? How do you actually do this? Well, we've got some tips. And the first tip that we have to build your AQ is to subscribe to our newsletter. We share a lot of research there that's actually used to build presentations like this one. All you have to do is go to our website and click on the subscribe button. We send it out to about 40,000 people every fortnight. Outside of shameless promotion though, here are 3 kind of meatier ways of thinking about AQ that can help you on both an individual and an organizational level.
The first is something known as the Engine 1 versus Engine 2 problem.
Yeah, so this is a concept that helps you try and understand how innovation works. And to explain, let's start with Engine 1, which is all about your core business, 80% of your current offering. It's about how you're delighting your most valuable customers and meeting their needs right now in the current moment. Engine 2 is about tomorrow's customers and tomorrow's capabilities in new markets with new competition. It's about creativity. It's about taking small insights about the people you're serving and then running hundreds of low-cost experiments. High duration, low stakes. Engine 2 is the vertical concept. It's the Navy's new class of ship. It's the new modular factory concept from Moderna. It's the AI bot that the New Zealand Kiwi sailors were using. It's a new product line of cardboard beds or an online course that you take in the evenings.
The 2 engines are very different. Engine 1 is all about discipline. It's about continuous improvement. It's about repeatability, reliance. It's about optimizing a very proven financial model. Engine 2, it's about experimentation, being creative. It's agility. It's about taking bold new steps into the future and not knowing actually how you're going to reap your financial turns and how things are going to play out. The challenge in a world of constant change is to keep both of these engines running smoothly. And that means asking yourself some very important questions.
For example, how close should the engines be? Does Engine 2 need to draw heavily upon the capabilities of Engine 1? Or does it need to be very separate? How do you allocate talent and resources in your team across the two engines? And how do you think of yourself? Are you the pilot at the center? Do you have the capabilities to support both Engine 1 and Engine 2? Or do you perhaps need to step back from one of them and let somebody else run with that?
However you answer these questions, they're unique to each individual situation. What we do know is that to be adaptable, both engines have to be firing on all cylinders. Engine 1 needs to be reliable as long as possible, so Engine 2 can experiment. Eventually though, Engine 1, it's going to stall. And if you're not investing and thinking about Engine 2 early enough, you won't be able to sustain long-term growth into the future.
So that's our first tip for improving your AQ. Our second tip is to remember that adaptability, as Tane said when he was speaking about his dad, it's an attitude. Something specifically that we call strong opinions lightly held. So let's unpack this for a second. Most people go through life and basically never really develop strong views on things, or they go along and buy into the consensus. Successful people, by contrast, tend to have a strong theory, a strong conviction, because they're making a big bet in time or money or both. These are people who put skin in the game. They have strong opinions. They form their view of the world, not based on what their friends think, not because someone they admire said so on television or on Twitter, but based on the best information that they can gather and the best analysis that they can subject that information to.
At the same time, they're willing to change their mind. Now, if we're honest with ourselves, that's hard. We struggle to let go of our ideas or to have them challenged. It feels personal, uncomfortable. The feeling of being wrong is something no one enjoys. The problem, though, isn't that we get things wrong. Everyone does that, especially this guy. The problem is not being aware of it, because being wrong without realizing it feels exactly like being right. Adaptable people get around this by admitting that there's always a chance, even if it's a small one, that their beautifully, carefully formed ideas and opinions might be wrong. That means that when new evidence or better ideas come along, it's easier for them to gracefully change their mind.
Or, as John Keynes famously put it, when facts change, I change my mind. What about you, sir? And that's kind of how you do it in science, right?
Yeah, that's right. As a scientist, learning from failure, it's part of the method. That's how science progresses, through a vigilant response to its own mistakes. That's the reason we've made such rapid progress on rolling out vaccines at a global scale. Because science isn't about tools or inventions, it's a way of thinking. A way of thinking that allows for correction. It constantly evolves. Given a new contrary piece of evidence, science insists that we rethink everything that we once knew. And that is why science is awesome. It changes, those changes accrue, altering our world irrevocably.
So ask yourself, can you think like a scientist? Can you be open to correction and to having your mind changed? What's so powerful about this kind of attitude, this strong opinions lightly held, is that when you show your team that your opinion has room to evolve, that you're open to change in your mind, it gives others a respectful space to share their ideas and to change their minds too.
And as we all know, in a complex world, collaboration always trumps genius.
Our last and perhaps most important tip for improving your AQ is to embrace the mindset of an amateur.
Yeah, amateur is usually a bit of an insult. He's a bit of an amateur.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Tanya.
No, but we all think amateur is a bit of an insult, but it actually comes from the Latin word for those who adore and endeavor, to love to do things. Amateurs don't do things because it's part of a professional development weekend. They do it because they're interested. They want to have a go. They're compelled. They dive in, imitate, improvise, and figure out the rules later. Instead of think before you act, sometimes it's act first and then think.
Which is exactly what this person, Mary Beth Heffernan, did. Back in 2014, an Ebola epidemic was sweeping through West Africa, and on the other side of the world in Los Angeles, Mary Beth was watching the evening news. She couldn't stop thinking about how scary it must be for the patients surrounded by people in hazmat suits. They looked terrifying, like stormtroopers. What's that like, she thought, to be sick with Ebola, to be sick with a scary, new, terrifying disease, and then to not see a person's face for days on end? I mean, can you imagine? And then she had an idea. What if the patient could see the face of the person treating them?
Bear in mind, Mary Beth wasn't a disease specialist, a public health official, or an aid worker. She had no connections to international organizations. She was actually an art lecturer. That's one of the last people you go to when a disease breaks out. She couldn't let go of that idea, though.
I decided, because it was haunting me so much, that I was going to give it a shot.
She spent months calling and emailing until eventually her proposal landed on the desk of Liberia's Ebola case manager, who invited her to come out. She brought $5,000 worth of cameras, printers, cartridges, sticky labels, basically the stuff you get from Officeworks. And then she got to work. Each time she took a portrait, she asked the health workers to use the expression they wished their patients could see.
And amazingly, it worked. Patients could now see the faces of the people who were helping them. Recovery rates increased. Patients said that it restored hope, that it made them feel connected, that it made them feel human again. And it wasn't just the patients. The healthcare workers said that they felt human again too. They reported more camaraderie with their fellow workers. They had more energy to keep going. That one simple amateur idea was a complete game changer for the Ebola epidemic. It brought a much needed dose of empathy and connection to what had until then been sterile medical environments.
The best part about this story, though, is it doesn't end there. News of what Mary Beth did in Liberia trickled out slowly over the years, and while it didn't get much mainstream press at the time, what she did there made a huge impression on the people who'd heard about it. Years later, when the next pandemic rolled out, those people reached out.
Here's a photo taken a few months ago of healthcare workers at a hospital in San Francisco. The doctor there had remembered Mary Beth's idea, and the practice quickly spread through the hospital first, and then to another one in Los Angeles, and then to Boston, and then it hit social media. And once that happened, it spread like wildfire around the world.
To Mexico.
And Brazil.
One Brazilian doctor who was working with kids even put a photo up of herself as a mermaid.
The idea spread to Argentina.
Ecuador.
Morocco.
England.
And Ireland.
Russia.
Canada. And so, these are the images that we'd like to leave you with today.
Thousands of people, human beings from every corner of the planet, who have found a way to adapt even in the darkest of times.
The two of us have been doing this work now for almost 7 years, an economist and a scientist on a mission to try and understand how we can build a better future. And the more that we learn, the more we discover that it always comes down to this. These things, human skills, the stuff the machines will never replace. Adaptability, entrepreneurial spirit, resilience, creativity, kindness, and love.
Life happens in all its ups and downs, and through it all, we do what we do best. We adapt, gaining survival skills, expanding our horizons, harnessing the strength to overcome our biggest challenges, the empathy to put ourselves in the shoes of a stranger.
We acknowledge with the full force of the outside world just how lucky we are to be here, to have the chance to experience life in all of its nuances, all of its unfairness, and all of its beauty.
None of us know what's coming next. What we do know is that we've got the ability to face it, to transform it into something that's of benefit for people and our planet. This is an opportunity to grow and perhaps even learn to love both the science and the alchemy of change.
We have so many reasons to be excited. It doesn't matter where you start. Embracing the amateur mindset, realizing your opinion has room to evolve, or just remembering that you are remarkable, that you're built for this. You're never too old, you're never too young to set out on an adventure to try one new thing.
We have it in us to be stronger, smarter, and kinder. Let's do it better this time.
Come and join us. It's time to get your AQ on. Future Crunch, out.
On behalf of the entire Data3 team, it's been an absolute pleasure to host you at JuiceIT Digital 2021. I hope that many of you attended as many sessions as possible. They've been insightful and have prompted you to think a little differently about the technology environment and the future of technology, including its impacts across the workforce, healthcare, education, and life as we know it. As I mentioned in the opening, it must be said that the role of technology as an enabler for growth cannot be underestimated. Data3 is excited for what lies ahead and remains committed to helping customers solve complex business challenges using innovative technology solutions. As we close out, I wanted to extend a big thank you to all our presenters, panelists, and of course our event sponsors. Microsoft, Cisco, Adobe, Cohesity, HPI, Pure Storage, Dell Technologies, Citrix, Lenovo, STM, and VMware. It has been our great pleasure to work alongside these partners to deliver JuiceIT Digital 2021 to you. We hope to see you in person at JuiceIT events soon. However, for now, we are very grateful for the time you've taken to join us online in JuiceIT Digital. Thank you.